Today we're going to talk about Joy Sunday and Advent and the connection between Charlie Brown, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. I was walking through CVS the other day, and when I walked in, I saw this little tree there, and of course it reminded me instantly of a Charlie Brown Christmas, one of my favorite Christmas shows. And it is, in fact, in honor of the 50th anniversary of Charlie Brown Christmas. That's why they were selling them. And of course, you may remember the story. I'm sure you've seen it, but it talks about, one of the key moments is when Charlie Brown goes to buy a Christmas tree at the Christmas tree lot for the school pageant. And when he goes there, instead of buying one of the beautiful trees, one of the fancy trees, he finds a scrawny little tree and he brings that back to the school. And of course, the kids make fun of him and can't believe he would choose this loser of a tree. And yet when Charlie looked at it, he realized it needed him. And he could see potential in that little tree that other people couldn't see. Part of what I love about this story, A Charlie Brown Christmas, again, 50 years ago it came out. The first year it came out, half of all Americans watched it. And 6 million Americans watch it every year since. But part of what I love about it is it ties into something really important in the Christmas story. In Mary's Magnificat, she talks about this is the moment after she's discovered that she's with child and Elizabeth has blessed her, and she cries out, "My soul magnifies the Lord, my spirit rejoices in God my Savior." And then she says this, "For he has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant." That she was chosen because she was lowly. And of course, if you know anything about Mary's story, she was a peasant girl from the wrong side of the tracks. Nazareth was a little village, maybe 100 people. It was 3 miles from the beautiful and glamorous Sepphoris with its theaters and culture district and shopping and luxury villas. But Nazareth was where the people lived who cleaned the houses of the people in Sepphoris. And so Mary, as this little girl, young girl, probably couldn't read or write, is chosen by God for the most important task any human being would be chosen for. He chose her because she was lowly. He chose her because he saw her heart, and he lifts up the lowly, and that's what made her rejoice. During the Advent season, part of what we are looking for is joy. Where do we find joy? And we think perhaps we can find joy in our parties or in the gifts that we buy or the gifts that we have, but really in the end, joy comes, as it did for Mary, when we recognize that God looks at the lowly and he lifts us up. When he looks at us and he sees what other people can't see in us, and we find joy because we find acceptance from God. But more than that, we find joy when we begin to look to see who are the people that need to be lifted up, the people who are discouraged, the people who are the lowly of our own time, the people who need help and hope and strength. When we're paying attention and we become the instruments that God uses to lift up the lowly, we find joy. I want to encourage you this Advent season, on this Joy Sunday, to remember the story of the Charlie Brown Christmas and how Charlie chose the tree nobody else wanted. I want you to remember how God chose Mary, the woman that hardly anyone would have expected, for this great and important task. How God chooses the unexpected and the unlikely, and how God calls us to bless, encourage, stand by, and stand with those who are in need of being lifted up. May God use us to lift others up this holiday season.